At last, I can welcome you back to the shed for the final episode of GGBO 2023, where we've got a little bit of finishing off work on the electrics and then we can get it strung up and a bit of a demo. Okay, so in the last episode, we got most of the controls fitted. We got the pickup in, we've got the kill switch in and wired up, we've got the volume and tone pots in and wired, and we've also got the push-pull pot working for the coil tap. What we have left to do is to properly install the boost circuit, get that all wired in and working, and then we need to properly install the stereo jack that is going to make this all work as it should do. However, there are one or two other little bits and pieces that we need to sort out as well, because we still need to install this battery snap into the trem cavity. That's going to be straightforward, 3 screws and we're good. And the one thing that I haven't done is to put a ground wire onto the tremolo claw, so I need to do that as well, and that's going to necessitate another hole being drilled into the cavity, and I think to do that I'm going to have to drop some of these controls a little bit. Other than that, I'm hopeful that this should be fairly straightforward. I'm a little bit worried about getting this boost circuit to work, but ultimately I think we should be okay. Okay, so I've pulled the boost circuit out again because we do need to do a little bit of work on this to configure it to work in this situation. Obviously we don't need the battery snap anymore because we've got one in here, but I do need that wiring, although one has come off. So what I'll just do is I'll cut those wires, take that clip off so that it can then be wired into the main battery clip, and from there I need to establish which of these wires are what, because I've kind of lost count of them, so we can work out what wires need to go where onto this push-pull pot. I'm making it very complicated in my head, but I actually think it isn't going to be that complicated. We need the output that's now going from the volume needs to go to one of the lugs on this push-pull pot. From there, that output will either be switched directly to the output jack or to the input of this circuit, and then the output from this circuit will go direct to the output jack again, I think. So depending on where that switch is will depend whether you get the boost circuit or not. That's my understanding, but I'll make sure I know precisely what's happening before I do anything further. Okay, so I've screwed that little circuit board into the side of the guitar there just to keep it from moving about. Hopefully I'll have enough room to get the potentiometer into place. And I've also joined all of the wires that need to be connected to the 9-volt battery together, and so far so good, because the switch does illuminate. It's not very bright, but it is illuminating, and I think in a dark room it will show up. So now what I need to do is just alter the wiring so that my output goes to the push-pull section of the tone switch, and from there it can be switched either direct to output or into the boost circuit. Okay, so we can start to get this wired together now, and it's relatively straightforward, I think. I've made a little plan, I've done a little bit of research, and basically what I need to do is, I've already put a jumper in between these two bottom poles on the switch, which leaves me 4 more to connect. Now the top 2 are the input and the output from the effect. This one is the input from the volume pot, so it's this red wire which I'll have to cut and feed into there, and then from there we have an output that goes to the output jack. So basically what happens is I cut that red wire, the end attached to the pot goes into this lug and the other end goes into this lug direct to the output. And in theory, that should make our circuit work. I'm going to work my way through, just do them one at a time, and then we can give it a try and see how we get on. This isn't the most complex wiring I've ever done, but it's getting close, I think. Now you might notice I'm not pre-tinning this wire, and that's because I want it to pass through the little hole in the lug, which isn't very big at all. So I don't want to kind of put a load of solder on it and make that so it won't happen. I'm sure I can get a decent solder joint on there. And then, as I said, you just need to reattach this output wire onto the other lug. And that should be it. So we'll get this plugged in and just give it a test to see if it works. Okay, so that's all plugged in, put back together, just turn the amp on. And as you can hear, there's a little bit of hum. Got the pickup that works still got functioning volume and tone. And we've got what feels like quite a substantial increase in output. So all we need to do now is to swap out the jack for this stereo jack, and basically the two connections that are already on it will go to two of these lugs, and then the ground from the battery will come directly to the other one, which means that when the jack plug is removed, it will break the connection to the battery and just save battery life that way. So hopefully that should be quite straightforward, but the first thing I need to do is to get this flip back over and take off the ground from the battery that we've got connected to everything else at the moment, and just get that directly to this output jack. And to wire this in, I've extended the ground wire from the battery onto this wire. I'll do that last. I've got way too much wire anyway, and I don't want it all kicking around inside the guitar, so I'm going to just cut these down a little bit and redo them. So I won't bother unsoldering that, I'll just chop it off. But basically, if my understanding is correct, that needs to be the wire from the battery, that is the ground, and that is the hot. And I'll just check that with the multimeter just to make sure, because I don't want to solder it up and it all be wrong, because that would be a pain and I'd look like a tit. So that should be the hot, which is that lug. Yep. That should be the ground, which is that sleeve. Yep. And that is the one that the battery is going to go to, which is this lug here, which is good. And the other way I can check this is if I connect to the ground, stick a jack in, and then I should have a circuit through to where the battery ground is going to go. And then if I do the reverse test, I'll take that out. I have no continuity, so that should work. So battery, ground, hot. Okay, I think I've got it. I think that's everything connected up properly now. I've just checked. The light does work, but it's very, very faint. But as soon as I take the jack out, it goes off, which is great. So I think I've got the wiring sorted now. I'm going to button everything up off camera. I'll install the jack properly, put all the knobs back on and everything, and then we can get on with stringing this up and hopefully get it set up and playing. That will be exciting. Okay, and there we have it, all done, strung up. I didn't really film much of that because I've filmed it about 6 times before, so there is plenty of video for people to go back and watch if they want to see exactly how it's done. It's far from set up correctly. The bridge is still a little bit on the high side. There's little point in setting it up too much at the moment. It's just been put together. It's going to settle in the next couple of weeks, so we'll just have to do that work again. So it's kind of ballpark. The intonation was actually sort of okay right out of the box, so I haven't done anything with that. I've just left it as is for the time being. Again, I'll give it a couple of weeks to settle and then we can sort it out. You might have seen me messing around with post-it notes when I was adjusting the bridge. Basically what I did was I kind of started with a full pack and I took them off until I had something that was the right thickness to wedge the bridge in position whilst I got it up to tune. And then I just adjusted the screws on the claw until it was in the right position where this was just loose enough to pull out. I cut them in half on the bandsaw off camera once I had the right amount. That's a decent tip. That did work well for me. Nothing else to report really. It all went together okay. The electrics all seem to work. So I'm going to show you the setup for what we're going to be doing the demonstration with, and we'll get on to the demo. And nothing super complicated for the demonstration. I've just got the big Marshall. So that's a 1977 JMP 100 combo. And on the pedal board, I'm not really using most of those. I've got a tuner, I've got some reverb should I feel like using it, and I've got a Marshall Shredmaster for the Overdrive. It's currently set up for kind of a bit of a hard rock sound, so we'll give that a bash and then I'll adjust it and set it up for more of a thrash metal sort of a sound, and we can give that a go too. Okay, so we'll start with some clean sounds, and there is a little bit of a quirk in the wiring which I need to figure out, and that is with the switch in, that is actually the coil tap position, and with it out, that is the humbucking position. So I'm going to start with it in, and that gives some nice bright spanky sounds. And then just going to put a little bit of boost on. I've got that. That's turned off all the way at the moment. And that's the boost turned all the way up. And as you can see, that's a massive increase in volume. It is clean boost though. So now we'll go to humbucking mode. This is volume all the way up. I want to do something about that popping. I think I need to put another capacitor into the circuit just to kill that pop. And that's with the boost all the way down. Start to bring a bit in. And as you can see in the humbucking mode, that boost circuit actually starts to drive the amp really hard, and you start to get a little bit of breakup, which is really nice actually. That is a very handy feature to have. So far so good. Obviously we're not really in the realm of the kill switch yet, but we'll get there. So next up, I'll just kick on a little bit of fairly substantial overdrive, but not as dirty as we're going to go. Okay, so a bit of drive on now, and this is in the split coil mode. And a bit of boost. Doesn't really get much louder with a bit of boost on, but it is more saturated. You can definitely hear that. I'm just going to add a little bit more boost in. That's definitely louder, but also much more saturated. So we're just going to turn that all the way up now. Filth, absolute filth. So let's do the same in humbucking mode. And that really is a lot of boost. I think that sounds beautiful. Next up, I'm going to have a play with the pedal and put it in kind of heavy metal mode. There's a contour control on this pedal which kind of affects the mids, and if you turn it all the way up, it kind of scoops the mids out and it gives you that kind of real heavy metal sound. And we'll start in single coil mode. And I'm going to add some boost. It's on about half boost now. And then we'll go for humbucking mode. And then half the boost. And again, that doesn't make it any louder, but it really kind of saturates it and makes it fatter, I think. So we'll go full boost in humbucking mode. So, last couple of bits that we need to explore obviously are the kill switch and the tremolo. Now, I'm not particularly au fait with either of these controls. I don't generally use a tremolo at all. I've never had a guitar with a kill switch on, but we'll have a play around with them and see what we can do. I'm very happy with how this has come out. It's nice to play. We're kind of focusing on the controls very much, but it's hardly been set up. The action's a little bit on the high side, but apart from that, it plays well. I think it sounds nice. I think it's got more to it than just being a thrash machine. It does sound quite nice, clean. On the whole, very, very happy with it. It's sad really that my playing skills aren't up to demonstrating this one properly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and give it a couple of weeks to settle down. I'm going to go about setting it up absolutely perfectly, and then I'm going to try and see if I can find someone who plays the kind of music that this is intended for, who could give it a proper demonstration. So if there's any volunteers out there, you know who to contact. This has been probably my most complex build. It's been very, very challenging. There's been a lot of new ground covered on this one. I'm genuinely very happy with the results. I've pushed a lot of boundaries and there aren't many things I'm not happy with on this guitar. But it's done, which means that we can put this one behind us now and start on the next build, which is going to be my entrance to the Jurg's Cup. And as this one has took so long, I am massively behind the game on that one as well. I've only got probably about 6 weeks, I think, to finish that build, but it's nowhere near as complicated as this one, so I think I can do it. So I'll be back in a couple of days' time with the start of that build. Until then, like if you've liked, subscribe if you haven't already done so, and I'll look forward to seeing you then. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye bye.